Hey everyone, it's Mr. G and I'm back again with another video for homework 9. So on this homework you have 10 questions to answer and I want you guys to write out the entire question along with your answers in the blanks. I don't want you to just write like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 and then just put the answer like a number or a word. I want you guys to write it all out, so that's why I've highlighted all of these sentences. Now for me, so that I could save time and I can go through it a little quicker so you don't have to watch a 20-minute video of me writing, I'm just going to go over the answers to help you guys out if you're stuck on any of the questions. So let's get started with number 1. Point A's geographic coordinates are, so I'm looking at point A, which is right over here on the map. Okay, and its coordinates, oops, already I'm losing my place. Its coordinates are, so first we got to find latitude. So latitude is flat. Okay, I'm going to write lat flat, just so I could remember my my little trick. Latitude lines are flat and it's going to be approximately, so let's say 15, maybe about 20 degrees north. And my line of longitude, it is about, here's the prime meridian over here. So it is west of the prime meridian and it is approximately, or almost exactly 100 degrees west. So it's 100 degrees west of the prime meridian. And since we write latitude first, I gotta have 20 degrees north and then 100 degrees west. For point D, which is over here, the latitude, remember flat first, latitude is 60 degrees. And I should include that it's either north or south, and it looks like it's north of the equator. So the equator line is right over here. This is north of the equator. So 60 degrees north. And in terms of latitude, here's the prime meridian, and it is definitely east of the prime meridian. So it's going to be 60 degrees east because I'm following this line and finding it right there. So it is 60 degrees east of the prime meridian. So those are the geographic coordinates for A and D. Number 3, at location blank, the altitude of Polaris is 0 degrees because, justify your answer. So at what location is the altitude of Polaris 0 degrees? So if you think about it, 0 degrees means that the altitude of Polaris, or the Polaris, will be exactly at the horizon. 0 degrees would be straight ahead, right where the land meets the sky or the water meets the sky. It should be directly there, and that only happens at the equator. So here's the equator. And so at location C, if I look carefully, I can see that C is on the equator because it's at 0 degrees. Latitude, flat, lat, flat. So at location C, the altitude of Polaris is 0 because it is on the equator. Let me write that in red. It's on the equator and Polaris will appear at the horizon. Polaris will appear at the horizon. So over here I don't have too much space, but on your sheets of loose leaf you should have much more space. Okay, for number 4, if it's 4 a.m. at location A, so here is location A, the time at location B is blank because, okay, so the time at location B, what we have to do when we're talking about time differences is we have to measure the difference in longitude. So we're trying to see the difference in the lines that run up and down, okay? The difference in the longitude lines to determine time, or local time, or whatever it is. Okay, so what we're gonna do is figure out the longitude of A, which is 90, and the longitude of B, which is 30. Okay, and if you do 90 minus 30, the longitudinal difference between A and B, let me write this down. So A is at 90 degrees, B is at 30 degrees, and I wanna put down that it's either west or east. So I'm looking for the prime meridian, and you can see that the prime meridian is over here. And both of them are left of the prime meridian, which is west. Okay, So 90 degrees west, 30 degrees west, and if I subtract them, there is a 60-degree difference between the two. Now I got to remember that 1 hour, or there's a 15-degree, every 15 degrees is a 1 hour difference. Let me put it that way. So every 15-degree difference equals 1 hour difference. So if there's 60 degrees between A and B, what I have to do is take 60 degrees and divide it by 15 degrees to figure out how many hours difference there are. So 60 divided by 15 is going to be 4. 4 hours, not just 4 by itself. Okay, next, I know that there's a 4-hour difference between A and B, but now I got to figure out if B is east or B is west of A, so that I can figure out if it's earlier or later. And because B is east of A, if you remember our rules from wheel, it is later. So because it's east, it's going to be later, and 4 hours later than 4 a.m. is 8 a.m. So I'm going to write that down over here. So it must be 8 a.m. at location B. Because there is a, let me zoom in a little bit, there is a 60-degree longitude difference. And every 15 degrees, there is a 1 hour difference. Okay, so if you have that in like not as many words or something similar to that, that's also acceptable. Okay, I'm going to spend a little bit less time on the rest of the questions so that the video is not too long. But number 5, as a traveler goes from location A to location B, the altitude of Polaris will. So if they're going from A to B, altitude of Polaris, we're looking at latitude. So we're looking at lat flat. So it looks like the altitude or the latitude is going to increase. So the altitude of Polaris will increase. Okay, it's hard to estimate what it's going to increase to because they don't really give us like reference lines except for the equator, but we know that it's going to increase. Number 6, longitude lines measure the angular distance blank and blank of the prime meridian. So the longitude lines go up, down. Okay, they measure, let's say this is the prime meridian. They measure whether you're east of the prime meridian or west of the prime meridian. So east and west of the prime meridian. Latitude lines, on the other hand, okay, latitude lines are flat, lat flat. Latitude lines measure how far north or south of the equator you are. So here's the equator. Latitude lines measure whether you're north or south of it. Okay, and our last 3 questions. The approximate latitude and longitude of location D is, so once again for location D, we're going to write the latitude, then the longitude. And the latitude happens to be, let's see, lat flat. So it looks like it is 30 degrees north. And the longitude, which is up and down, and it is 110 degrees east. Okay, so my location D is at 30 degrees north and 110 degrees east. Do not forget to include whether you're north, south, or east or west. A lot of students just write the degrees with a comma in between them, and they don't put the compass direction. Number 9, it is solar noon at location X. So let me circle location X over here. So at location X, it's noon, which means it's 12 p.m. Okay, what time is it at location C? So location C is over here. Location C is east of X. Okay, it's east of X, which means that it is going to be later. Okay, so it's got to be later than noon. So somewhere in the PM, I got to figure out where. So what I want to do now is I want to see exactly how many lines of longitude away it is. So if X is at 80 degrees east, C looks like it's at 95 degrees. Okay, so I'm carefully figuring out the longitude of C, and it looks like it's at 95 degrees east. So I'm going to do 95 degrees east minus 80 degrees east to figure out the difference in longitude between the two locations, between C and X. Right over here is where I'm looking. Okay, and that is 15 degrees. So there's a 15-degree difference between location C and location X, and I know that location C is east of X, so it's going to be later than X, and it's 15 degrees away, so I know it's exactly 1 hour later, which means that at location C, it is 1 p.m. at location C. So at location C, it is 1 p.m. And that's how we could have gone about answering that question. Number 10 is a very similar question, another solar noon question. So if it's solar noon at location X, so it's the same time over here, so 12 p.m. What time is it at location B? So location B is up north over here, but remember we're talking about time, so we're looking at lines of longitude. And location B happens to be at, it looks like it's at 65 degrees east. X is at 80 degrees east, so I can do 80 minus, it was 80 degrees east I should say, minus 65 degrees east. And that gives us 15 degrees difference. So once again, there's another 15-degree difference, which means that there's a 1 hour difference, just like there was before, except this time B is west of X. And if you remember a wheel, that means that if it's west, it's going to be earlier. So if it's 12 p.m., 1 hour earlier than 12 p.m. is 11 a.m. And that's how we determine the solar noon and the answer these questions. I hope that was helpful to you guys, and if you guys have any other questions, see me after class or see me after school, and I'll see you tomorrow.